Welcome to the Art of Love podcast. My name is Tamar Gale, and I am here to guide you into deeper, more expansive love, freedom, and pleasure. A deep inner journey of self-discovery. Here, I will cover all types of topics pertaining to love, including self-love and self-care, relationships, Tantra, intimacy, sex, all the way to Christ Consciousness and Pachamama, just to name a few broad topics. My mission is to support you in being true to yourself, reconnecting the fragmented pieces and aspects of yourself so that you can find and use your own inner fire, Shakti power, and voice. It is time to break down the old systems that we have been taught to live by. I would love to see you align with your personal truth and nature instead of succumbing to others' views of how you should be, trying to fit inside of the box in order to be accepted, and instead standing in your power and loving all that you are, accessing a new way of being in the world. Okay, welcome to the Art of Love, and today I'm with Gonzalo Salinas. And Gonzalo, thank you so much for joining me today. You are the first man that I've had on my podcast, and so I really want to welcome you. He has got an amazing story and a lot of wisdom to share with us, so welcome.
Thank you, Tamar. Thank you for the invitation.
Can you tell us how you got started on your path of what you do? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, first of all, what I do is I help men to become better men, literally. Basically, what I learned on this organization that I've belonged since 2012, called the Mankind Project, is the largest organization in the world that help men to become better men based on two principles: principle of responsibility and principle of accountability. So you help the brother that is next to you, and you're responsible for every action that you make on this planet. As simple as that. It's an organization that helps men in two ancient ways. One way is the connection, deep connection through men's circles, and the other one is they have a weekend. Kind of like a retreat that is the emulation of the ancient masculine initiations when the kids were taken out of the world of women outside of the village, sometimes even going to like the extreme of risk in their lives, and then they come back turned into men, kind of like getting into the ritual space. Yes. So I did my masculine initiation in Central Florida in 2013. And it was a magical experience. You don't risk your life just for the sake of the safety of the audience, but you go through a psychological stretch that basically creates a new understanding of what's the meaning of being a man. So literally helping men to become better men, focusing on masculinity and sexuality.
And I want to say that I know that that's really in alignment with what I do with women and the kind of the initiations and that into womanhood. And it's something that's really missing in our society and our culture, of having these initiations into the different phases of our life, like reaching manhood and women becoming, women and having their menarche, their first bleed, becoming mothers. It's really missing in our society, and I think there's been such a great loss of understanding what it is to be an awakened man, or an awakened woman, because we've been missing this initiation.
Well, yes, you're right. In the Western world, it's really sad that we are so detached from the world of spirit. And when you really want to create a new identity for a man or a woman, which is your parcel of work, you need to create the liminal space, which is, from the anthropological point of view, is a ritual space where that is timeless, that is spaceless when it comes to a physical world, and you have some sort of connection with the divine world, whatever the person wants to understand by divine, right? And you create a change in consciousness because you enter into this ritual space, and that happens for literally anything. When you want to like go to a next phase, you graduate from college and you have your big ceremony with the commencement speech and all that, and you dress up in a very, like, for a lack of a better word, funny way, So that happens in certain cultures, but in the Western world, for sure, it is lost.
Yeah.
And that's why, you can see men outside that they live in the body of a 50-year-old man or a 40-year-old man with the consciousness of a 18-year-old man.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for pointing that out. And I have, with my line of work, and I've always talked about women, there's been a few times that men have reached out and made comments on my post or what I'm sharing, and they've asked, well, what about men? And so I really felt like it was important to have you on and to share about this, because I know that there are so many men that are looking for this and wanting to find and reach, something so much more.
That's funny, because I get the same thing, but from women.
Really?
Yeah. I know some people in Miami that do this type of work. I'm impressed with the work that you are doing. I mentioned this to you before the before the interview, but basically what I do is, right now I am solely dedicated to working with men. Because that's what I understand, first of all. That's the path that I've walked. That has been my research. And, I right now I feel more comfortable working with men. And there is another element that you might have seen on this world of, like, growing and changing your consciousness, which is, there are way more opportunities for women to grow and to expand and to elevate their consciousness. And there are so little for men.
Yes.
And the thing is, right now, there is such a heavy load on what a man's supposed to be on this society that just asking for help is almost like a crime.
Yes.
It's a crime against their masculinity, because you're supposed to solve your things by yourself, and like what all the phrases that we hear as men, like man up or get your shit together and all that, and there's no space for like asking for help, and especially at this moment of history is the moment when men need the most help.
Yes, I completely agree. And men have been told that since they were little kids.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Man up, don't cry. Boys don't cry.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And what I've seen on this path, right, is once the man can open up, he totally becomes a different person.
Yes, I agree.
And you can really see the happy boy, you can really see the shiny man, you can really see the potential of that man taking place and manifesting. But when a man is closed or broken, there's no way. This is like a wall that will not allow him to advance. And I know that based on my own personal story, right?
Yes, can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yes. I'm 11 years old, right? And I found a very ancient thing in my house called Playboy magazine, right? Like most of the people of the audience probably don't know what a Playboy magazine was, but that was porn for us back in the day.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm talking about 1991, right? Yeah. I was 11, and I found this magazine. When I opened the magazine, I just come across with the most amazing thing on this planet, a naked woman, you know? And I said, wow. The 11-year-old boy couldn't believe what his eyes were looking at, you know?
Yeah.
And little by little, that was, from Playboy magazine to like magazines with explicit sex, Betamax, VHS, VCD connected to a computer, DVD, all the way to internet porn. 20 years later, I was totally hooked on porn, fully addicted, not controlling my willpower, and my life was a real mess. Now, after years of healing, having the certainty of being healed from that, I help men that are hooked on porn, and I can tell that it's a serious, real problem. And right now that I get to see that deep side of the man, especially when you are capable of creating a safe container, because basically I don't do anything. I just create the safe container so that man can open up and heal himself. That's the most important thing. Of course, I've been gathering amazing tools along the way, but if that man is not willing to take action, there's nothing I can do.
Yes, so true.
So,
Yeah.
but being on this side, I realize that nowadays, more than any other time of history, men really need help. So that's why, I dedicate most of my effort to help men.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's men and women that are needing.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, this space that's held and the safe container to be able to go into these things. When they're ready.
Especially, like identifying sometimes they might not look ready, but if somebody is brave enough to at least ask for help, the facilitator, the person that is on some sort of, authority figure, should know how to identify that and have some tools in place that would help, in this case, that man to open up and do the work.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just have like a quick text, private message through Instagram from a guy from Argentina that tells me, hey, brother, I need help. That's it. And then I do the inquire. They don't respond. I kind of like try to open that man in a different way, because most of the people, they are not used to this, and obviously they come to me with most of the times with a problem with porn addiction. But then I am capable of offering many other solutions, because one of the things with porn addiction is that in most of the cases, and I'm telling you this based on my own personal story and all the stories of the men that I help, the problem is not the porn addiction. The problem is something else that is called, in the words of Carl Jung, is called the original wound. And actually coming to a internal space where you can identify that original wound on that man, that's the real work.
Yes.
But I'm so proud of that man when he is able to like get there. I just create the space, and
Exactly.
and the tools that I have been acquiring along the way just help me to get to that space, or at least to facilitate that space for that man.
Beautiful. And that's what I believe I call the sacred wound. Yeah, the original wound. Yeah. Wow, that's so powerful too. When someone can reach that and understand where everything stems from. Yeah. Wow.
Especially that because there is something that is most of the times totally hidden on the subconscious mind, right? And this is exactly what Joseph Campbell calls the cave, the fear in the cave. But precisely that cave that you fear the most to enter in is what is holding the biggest treasure for you.
Yes.
So because if you have a wall that is between you and your mission, then tearing down that wall is your mission. Before that mission that might be, passing that wall.
And in regards to, is this what you write about in your book? Because you just had a book that came out that was just released.
Exactly, yeah. Yes. It's actually, the book is in Spanish. By the end of September is coming the English version. Obviously, the original title is in Espanol, but the book, the title in English is Conquering Porn Addiction, which is 30% a testimonial book, right? My personal story, and 70% 7 steps that I put together to help men to actually heal from porn addiction. Yeah. It's a deep book, let me tell you. It took me probably like a couple of years of research and a year to write the book. But I tell everything. Like at some point I made the decision and I said, you know what? Like if I'm gonna open up, I'm gonna like totally open up. So I even tell the story of like when I was not thinking about but planning my suicide, which is like a very, you know what? Like what you are listening in your mind when you are thinking about committing suicide is not precisely the most beautiful sound in the world. I'm telling you, it's something, basically it's a feeling that where you don't want to die, but you just want to stop the pain. So, like I always thought that, that addiction to porn was going to be like, kind of like the hidden thing, and, like I would live with a girlfriend. And of course, I was constantly waiting, like until she goes to the supermarket or until she goes to the bank or whatever it is, so I can have my secret relationship with porn, right? And, like that was good. It worked until it didn't work anymore. So at some point I meet this beautiful girl. I thought she was the girl of my dreams. Beautiful, gorgeous model. I met her in this spiritual setting. So she was like very spiritual, very smart. She was a CPA. She was an amazing girl. Say, wow, like I hit the jackpot, like, yeah. And then, we actually were friends for something like 6 months. We would do sacred medicine together. And then she told me that she broke up with her boyfriend. So I said, yes, it's my time, I'll take action. So yes, that's what I did. And then the first time we were going to have intimacy, we were going to have sex, I couldn't have an erection. And believe me, for a man, that is not a pleasant thing. Like, you feel hurt deep in your soul. It's like spiritual pain. It's like your masculine idea of who you are, like your masculine identity is completely destroyed, right? It's a feeling of guilt, shame, and like self-hatred that is really hard to describe. And obviously I have to mention that after that day, I wanted to explain to this girl, because right after I started like researching, and basically what I was experiencing was a symptom that comes from porn that is called PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, which is already typified by scientific literature, right? So basically what you do is you burn your dopamine receptors in your brain. So all the cascade of neurotransmitters that you need in order to have an erection, it's impossible to have that, because the amount of dopamine that a real human being, a real woman, provides to you is nothing in compared to the hyperstimulation that you get from porn, right? So you've been programming your brain just to be stimulated by, hardcore, hyper intense porn. That a woman is like just so vanilla that it doesn't do anything to you. So I couldn't have an erection. This girl never, took my phone calls anymore. Until this moment that I'm doing the interview with you, never talked to this woman anymore. And it is what it is. I got into a big depression. And I got into a time, because obviously I completely cold turkey detached myself from porn, right? And basically after that moment, I started experiencing something. By the time I didn't know this, right? Something that is called the flat line, which is basically that you have a penis of a 95-year-old man before the invention of Viagra, right? For the time that lasts. So, it was really a tough time for me. So just put the variables of the equation together, right? This girl never took, I was in love with the girl. She never took my phone calls. I cannot have an erection. For me, family is everything. That's in my values and my personal beliefs. So I am telling myself the story that I cannot build a family with a woman, that I cannot have kids because, I'm seeing that my penis is not responding to sexual stimulation. So, and many other things. Plus, by that time, I didn't know that the porn addiction permeates in every single area of your life if you are having that. By that time, I didn't know why things weren't working for me, why I was so anxious, that I had tendencies to depression. Even though having such an optimistic personality, I didn't know. I couldn't connect the dots. I was sometimes experiencing premature ejaculation, sometimes delayed ejaculation. I was completely detached from my brain, from my genitalia, and I was completely incapable of create a significant connection with another human being. I would manifest a romantic partner in my life that was on the same level of unconsciousness where I was, but I didn't know that. So that's even worse. So, with all these sum of elements, I said, let's finish this. So I was literally planning my suicide.
Okay, that was when you were
Yeah,
suicide.
and I was planning my suicide until 2 weeks of severe depression. And I guess I was probably scared of committing suicide, but I was running. I was living in Miami Beach. By that time, I was running by the beach, and I just with my, wearing clothes and everything, my sports clothes, and I just ran into the water, and I was almost 30 minutes crying and screaming until it started getting darker. But I communicated with Mother Earth, and I said, if you help me with this, if you help me to heal from this, I will serve my fellow men. So that's how I started. I started understanding that when it comes to porn is a very, very serious issue. As a matter of fact, there are 15 states in the United States that have declared porn a public health issue.
Wow,
15 states,
that.
yeah, 15 states. And there are serious scientific literature that support this. And not only that, but also it's a silent epidemic. The topic of sexuality, the topic of sex is so covered in silence. Yes. Is the cover of the taboo book, right? So when you are experiencing something like that, especially being a man, asking for help is not a possibility. So for me, creating awareness of this is a life mission. It's a life mission. The great thing is that, and this might sound like a paradox, but today I'm so grateful to that addiction to porn because it led me to the path where I am right now, which is the path of sacred sexuality. And I had the beautiful realization that helping men to heal from porn addiction is 50% of the work, and the other 50% is showing them the path of sacred sexuality.
So great to hear that. Yeah. Sacred sexuality is a path that I think more and more we're becoming a little more aware of. Like the more and more people are becoming aware of it. I'll say that. Can you talk a little bit about sacred sexuality? Like maybe for the people that don't know what that is, like can you explain that a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah. So in the school where I'm studying, which is the ISTA school, they have on the curriculum they have the basic explanation that sex have 4 functions, and most of the humanity are in the 2 first functions that are more connected to the lower chakras, which is the having fun function, which is totally valid. And by the way, I love that one. Everybody does.
Yeah,
right?
we need that sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Sure, we need to have fun.
Having fun with sex is amazing. It's amazing. It's actually one of the reasons why, at least I can talk, from a personal perspective, is one of the reasons why I love so much my human condition. Oh yeah, for sure.
So you experience it through the body, right?
It's like becoming a kid and playing with another human being, but without clothes. So it's amazing, yeah. And in reality, if you see the ludic space, you go to this timeless space like kids, which is the same place where kids go when they're about to play, but it's a different kind of game,
Yeah.
And you are actually experiencing the same things, exploration, novelty, like unexpected things. You can actually relate to the other person in such an intimate ways that you wouldn't be able to do it in the world constrained by cultural apprehensions. But so one of the functions is having fun, right? The other function is the reproductive function, which is necessary because to populate the planet, to expand, create a family, create a legacy. But the other 2 superior functions of sex are functions that most of the people don't have access, and just because of lack of information, like sex has been used in our society, as a element of exchange in the marketplace that like most of the people don't even pay attention to that, just go by their intuition, which is nothing to judge. It is what it is. But if you can improve, like everything in life, it will improve if you pay attention to that, if you get proper information, if you start applying in your life the information that you get, taking action, pretty much. The other 2 superior functions, which are not, I'm not going to use the word superior, but the other functions that are not like the most popular, right, is a healing function. You can actually use sexuality to heal yourself, to heal your partner, to heal from childhood trauma, to heal something in your physical body, to heal whatever you want to process. You can bring that to your partner, and you just decide to work on that. And the other function is the illuminating one, which is basically going into a space of dissolving your identity and create the oneness with the other person, right?
Yes.
It takes work. It takes practice. But, two trained lovers, the very good thing about this is that the more you are practicing with your partner, the more you are kind of like, first of all, liking your partner, obviously the beautiful pharmacy that is the human body will start playing on your favor, producing all the hormones, like the feel good hormones, and that will create a stronger bond between you and your partner, and also healing hormones, So obviously, if you have a pharmacy in your body and you have the techniques and you have the, like the space to go with your partner, you will not need some or most of the medicines that they sell out there, right? So sacred sexuality is basically everything that is understanding that the sexual union comes from a sacred place. Like, this is something that is been coming to my life since I was a kid. I was always understanding that there is more than just this physical pleasure thing. And even though like I was hooked on porn for so long, I always had that intuition, but I never dared to explore. So I really had to hit the ground in order to start exploring and to understand on a deeper level in my body that sex is sacred, So, and I live that in my life, and I teach that. So, I don't consider myself like a great master on this, but I put my heart on this. I really love this world of sacred sexuality.
Yes, I do too. It's such an important topic as well, because I'm as far as women, and I've been one of them. You don't understand that there's always that energetic exchange. There's an energetic exchange, and for men as well as women, we hold on to that energy for a very long time inside of our bodies, and you don't understand the repercussions that you can have by carrying someone's energy if it's not, if you're not careful about whose energy you're sharing with. You're not careful about who you're having sex with, if you're not aware of the energy of the other person, and you just have sex with whoever, you're actually taking on that other person's energy as well. So do you find that with men holding the energy of the women?
Well, let me tell you something. Like, I come from a place where I was not only addicted to porn, but on my 20s, I was living a very promiscuous life. And I understand, like, now, I understand why I was always keeping my life on a lower vibration. And it was totally connected to a kind of like lower sexuality that I was living.
Yeah.
Not only like in a very promiscuous lifestyle, but also I didn't care. Like, it was the only requirement for me. I'm an heterosexual man, so the only requirement for me was that the other being had to have a vagina, and that's it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I had no standards. I had nothing. And by the way, like, also watching porn for so long, right? Really created in my mind the idea that a woman was an object for pleasure, which is really sad. And every single time when I get a new client, when I get a new man that wants to heal from this, that's one of the very first questions that I ask, tell me, like, how do you define a woman, like what a woman represents in your life? And together we always come to this space that most of the times they are not aware of. And but they are considering women objects for their sexual pleasure. And it is time to break that cycle. Yeah.
And I could say, as far as like porn goes, like I have met a lot of women that also take their cues in their sexual life from porn. And that means that they're completely disconnected from their bodies and trying to have sex from what they've seen in porn because they think that's what they're supposed to do, because they think that's what men want them to do, and men
Same story.
do want them to do it, but they're so disconnected with the pleasure, really. And yeah, I meet women and they're like, oh, well, he doesn't like bang me hard enough, or he doesn't, you know, like, and that's all that they want, when they don't really understand that there's so much more feeling and depth and connection that you can have. Yes, it's fun, but there's just so much more to that, and that's not the only way that you can have sex. There's
Yeah, you know, like it's a very sad thing that you know, so much pounding on porn and so like little connection, you know. But I in reality look at that is that's just you know, like an exterior portrait of fake sex, you know. As a porn scene that is 50 minutes, it takes 2.5 days to shoot. You know, do you want to hear something funny? Especially from the younger crowd that come to me when they want to work on a personal coaching to heal from porn addiction. They come with one very unique question. And you know what's that question? They ask me, hey, Gonzalo, like, why do I have such a small dick? Why my penis is so small? And I'm like, wait a minute, dude. Like, I mean, I know exactly what happened because it's funny. Like, this is my path have been so guided because I remember experiencing exactly the same thing. You know, I remember going to literally, when I was 20, going to a plastic surgeon, trying to have a penis enhancement, asking for the information because I was doing the same thing that these kids do, which is comparing their penises to the porn actors. And they tell me that and say, dude, like, you don't have a small penis. You have a normal, well-functioning penis, but you are comparing yourself to the 0.01% of men that actually they have a huge penis, but not necessarily they are good lovers. Not necessarily every woman likes that. You know, sometimes that even hurts, you know. So I'm so glad for this urologist, which was my second opinion, because the one wanted to sell the surgery. And the second opinion, this surgeon told me, this urologist told me, hey, Gonzalo, you have, believe me, it was kind of like an old urologist, probably like on his mid-70s, were kind of like an eminent doctor back in Peru. And he said to me, Gonzalo, believe me, I have more than 50 years looking at penises every day, and your penis looks totally fine to me. Believe me. I will never forget that man, because he was actually the one that allowed me to trust and step back from that decision. Otherwise, you know, I would have risked, you know, something that was perfectly fine, you know.
And I think something also that could be important to point out is that there are different sizes of penises, and their width, length, whatever. There are also different sizes of vaginas, the way they're shaped. So every shape and height, length, whatever, has a vagina that fits perfectly with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's a really interesting to see that, because not everybody's made for each other's pleasure. Like, find the one you fit with. You know, it's like what is it? The hummingbird. You know, only fits in certain flowers with its beak, right? To get the nectar. They're the only ones that can fit in certain trumpet flowers.
And you know what? The beautiful thing is, the more I am understanding the way we create reality, because obviously I really had to go to like, okay, where this comes from, because nothing was working out in my life, right? So once I realized that I was wasting my sexual energy, which was the creative energy that I was using to create my entire reality, right? So once I realized that I was wasting my creative energy, I said, okay, I need to understand the process of creation. And I need to understand how I create my own reality. So I started like obviously researching and going to the people that have already created beautiful realities for themselves. And then I said, you know what, like I'm gonna start using all this skill to like create the reality of my dreams, which by the way, I am creating the life of my dreams, you know, like from wanting to be a Catholic priest when I was finishing high school, all the way to like becoming a sex educator now and helping men to become better men. That is the life of my dreams, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it took me a while to really understand that the creative process has a lot to do with your sexual energy, and how you manage that energy is actually a skill to learn. You know, not a single human being comes to this planet with instructions to create, but we are humans, right? We are basically machines of creation. We are creating all the time. Every single thought, every single action. Every single action is a cause set in motion. Everything. Every phone call we make, every Instagram picture that we like, every restaurant that we stop by just to have a quick bite, everything. So yeah, this obsession that I had with porn in my life wasn't working out at all. Allowed me to enter into this space where now I can understand the way I create my reality.
So I'd love to ask you one more question.
Absolutely, yeah.
For women who are maybe in relationships like this and with men who have these porn addictions, is there a way that they can support them or like guide them to learning? Absolutely.
There is a way. As a matter of fact, I dedicate a chapter of my book to that.
Good.
To basically a partner that is with a person addicted to porn, right? And there is a way to support that person only if that person is willing to do the work. That's it. If that person is not willing to do the work, unfortunately, you cannot, this saying, you can take the horse to the water, but you cannot force the horse to drink the water, right?
Yes.
So in that case, open communication. Communication is such a beautiful thing in a relationship. It is actually, when it comes especially to sexuality, and I get a lot of this. Hey, Gonzalo, you know what? Like, I watch porn once in a while, but I'm not addicted. And then, dude, like, you are using probably a solid 15% of your sexual energy in something where your partner doesn't participate. So you are having this closed thing for you, and is that cheating? Is not cheating? Where's the thin line, It's like, okay, you're not bringing your partner into a sexual space, which, by the way, will have a negative consequence for the relationship itself. Yes. When it comes to connection, when it comes to programming, when it comes to, like, especially the programming that you are doing in your brain in the moment where you are actually connecting and having sex with your partner, that will have a consequence. And unfortunately, it's a negative consequence, because, you are burning your dopamine receptors, and like any other addiction, you start like saying, I consume, but just a little, I'm not addicted. But guess what? Once your body is not satisfied with that tiny amount of dopamine, you will start watching porn with more frequency and watching more hardcore scenes, which ultimately will lead you to disaster, especially if you have a partner.
And do you find that when, like, 'cause a lot of times when when a couple's having sex, whatever, man or woman, or anyone, that you fantasize a lot. You can fantasize, and it kind of takes you out of that connection with your partner and into some completely different world, but there's not that connection there. When men start on this path of healing the porn addiction, does that change? Do you?
Well, the thing is,
Because is it the porn that creates that?
one of the things that changed for sure is the sexual taste. I've had, and that's normal because you start creating tolerance to what you watch. It's funny because last year, the most visited porn site in the world, they tell you like each year in numbers, right? And the 3 most searched categories of porn in the United States for men are teen, which is literally a teenager, right? Teen, stepsister, and stepmom. So imagine that what is stimulating most of the Americans now when it comes to porn is related to, kind of like going for the younger or incest, right? So that's alarming, let me tell you, because sooner or later, that is going to have a consequence as a collectivity. That is going to have a consequence. So, like basically when men come to me with these type of fantasies, like, dude, I'm an advocate of great sex. Like, I want to live an amazing sexual life, and I help other men to live amazing sexual lives, and instead of like having such a sad and poor fantasy that is you and a freaking computer screen, instead of that, go with a real live woman and share your fantasy. Most likely she would love that fantasy. She would love that you are a man that is willing to take action over the fantasy, right? Whatever the fantasy is, speak up, communicate. And but having a fantasy with a tablet or with a computer, I mean, there's something wrong right there,
We're very disconnected from our bodies.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Plus, porn, talking about this connection, porn stimulates your sight, but the other senses are not. And you really need to like give the connection and feedback through the entire body, through your senses, by touching, by feeling, by listening actively, by speaking. Most of men and most of women don't know, like, when a woman is moaning, that moaning is like healing music for the man. Have you heard about the Icarus in the medicine music? When the shaman sings the beautiful Icarus, plays exactly the same role. And the most beautiful thing is that you are expressing yourself and you are opening up, and whatever is leaving your body is exactly what your man needs. And this is a type of medicine that not a single, like kale salad or any other type of natural medicine can heal. You are literally healing your man with your moaning because it's sacred music.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, exactly.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
And you just touched on a subject, and I know I said I have one more question, but now I have another one.
Sure.
You talked about sacred medicine, and I've had my own experiences with that.
Absolutely.
Could you go into a little bit of that?
Yeah, for sure.
And how that kind of correlates with...
In the book, in Conquering Porn Addiction, I actually put the last chapter is an appendix where I talk about the work with psychedelics and sacred medicine. Most of my work has been with a plant from my country. I'm from Peru. that is called ayahuasca that accelerated and helped me a lot with my healing. I will not recommend to anyone to work with psychedelics or sacred medicine if they are not make sure that they have done the research, that they are safe with the medicine, the circle, and the facilitator, and that is legal in the place where they are doing it, and of course, understanding that it's a sacred.
Yes.
That you cannot do this recreationally. And unfortunately, a lot of people they go for a high or whatever it is, but and that is something that has helped me a lot. I've had like such a deep understanding of why I chose voluntarily to go through these couple of decades of porn addiction. But that's something that I wouldn't be able to understand without the sacred medicine, I chose voluntarily, and now I can manifest the sacred path. So that's the only way that I can recommend sacred medicine to anyone.
Yes.
It's just because if they do the work and they make sure that the place where they are doing it is legal, and of course, safety first.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being here. I think the work that you're doing is amazing, and I'm so happy that we've crossed paths and that you're able to share this here with everyone and with the world, because it's something that I totally believe that we're ready for. And
yeah, absolutely. And just one last thing that I would love to mention is that the English version of the book is coming by the end of September, right?
Yes, and I would love to put the links.
For sure. I will give you, obviously, the book is on Amazon, in 7 different markets of Amazon worldwide, but the book is in Spanish. By the end of September, it's coming the English version.
Great.
And if somebody has a question, they can contact me through Instagram. It's Gonzalo Salinas 80.
Can you spell that?
Oh yes, it's GONZALOSALINAS 80. They can find me on Instagram, and pretty much my Instagram is linked to like every social media outlet that I have out there.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you so much, Tamar.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us for The Art of Love. And I look forward to connecting with you again next Wednesday. May we go out into the rest of this week embodying more love for ourselves, love for others, and love for Pachamama, Mother Earth. So love to each and every one of you, and see you next week.